Bants or bullying, bants or bullying. We're playing a game called Bants or bullying, bants or bullying, bants or bullying. It's rarely bants, it's usually bullying. Right, let's just close that, close that. I've just spent 4 to 10 minutes deleting videos from my computer as I have apparently filled up my C drive with video footage. Which means I have not been able to take the time I was planning to take to review what's actually going on. So let's have a quick reminder. Okay, so some expensive pants from Kuno. I'm not that fussed about trousers from the little ginger scouser. Find the cryptozoologist. Probably is going to have to wait until Wednesday. Money for the rent, 20 real. I've been picking up bottles, but close the waterlock tomorrow. Investigate a doomed commercial area. I have not managed to attract the attention of whoever is hiding up there, but I've now got a nasty suspicion it might be murderous mercenaries. Speak to the garbage people about the clothes. Find a way into the secret passage in the back of the Whirling in Rags. Track down my gun. I know that that has been purchased by somebody. The Whirling's absent bartender is interesting, particularly given some of the interesting stuff I found out the other day. Track down your badge. Oh, stop picking on me. Get the body down without shooting it in the stomach. Hello, Renner. I'm just reviewing my my tasks. Where is the rest of the armour? Ah, okay, the Harbour Gate. Asked the Jolly Mesk about the armour. I was considering heading down to the Harbour Gate, actually, because I have been carefully avoiding it, because it looked like trouble. Ask somebody else about the tattoos' possible meaning. We know, from having spoken to Judith, that the tattoos on the body are some sort of Phoenician star map of places people have been. Shut up, electrochemistry. It wasn't the bartender who reported the crime, it was somebody else. I need to go and speak to Joyce, but I suspect that's going to be less interesting for... Hello, Mark! For people who are watching. And obviously, the main quest, sing karaoke. Now, I was considering, given I have 2 skill points, putting a skill point into something. What I ought to do, from an efficiency point of view, is check what it is I need be able to attract the attention of whoever is hiding upstairs in the furnace. But it's physical instrument, and I'm not absolutely confident. I want to give physical instrument more control over what we're doing. Brenna wants to see me chat to Joyce. Okay, I might do that this evening. I have mocked up what my mug might look like if I were to make some Andy Twitch stream merch. And I learnt the important lesson that while you can start off writing electrochemistry quite strong, you do run into problems once you hit the mystery bit of it. I'll leave speaking to Joyce until later, Runner. I really ought to get on with the actual main quest, I feel. So, the only question is, do I head inside and speak to the Union thugs? Or do I head up the street and speak to the other Union thugs? What do you reckon? I'm not going to make you vote, not least because I watched Banzai last night and it was quite depressing. Oh, bugger it, I'll go and speak to Joyce. It's still not even midday yet. You can always watch this on YouTube, you know. I have a feeling that it might even qualify as some sort of ASMR, frankly. AMSR? Right, okay. We are... Just double check what we're set up with. We don't have a lot of choice with our trousers. That'll be why I'm having so much difficulty. These flare-cut trousers are encouraging electrochemistry. My jacket... I could put on the jacket that makes me better at mind control, but then I'd lose my EDC bonus. I'm not wearing my white tank top right now, thank you. And I'm definitely not wearing the fingerless gloves, as that will make electrochemistry even worse. Okay, I need to find some more clothes. Right. Yes, I could just run around in my pants, Serena, but I'm not going to. I want to create a fantasy character that lives in a marvelous magical world rather than just recreate myself with a better beard. What was I going to say? There was something. Oh well. Okay. Oh yes. Having
You're
turned
back. Good. What can I help you with?
having turned slightly into Matt Berry last time I was doing it, I've spent a certain amount of today uh, repeating "He wears his crown around town" to myself in the vague hope that I can push the accent more in the direction of Inspector Rabbit from Year of the Rabbit.
More lessons in basic reality?
Yes, please.
My favourite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
Okay. Now we've had the big discussion about geography. Save pants for an emergency, says Mark. I hadn't considered the possibility of just stripping naked and running away from people in the hope it would distract them, but that might work. Right, so we've done place. Let's do time. What is even time? Why is Doctor Who staring at sinister postcards in the lorry park?
These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late.
Too late for what? No, I'm not feeling it.
For the big time.
Her eyes light up. There's a flash of teeth.
The smile of a predator. No doubt what she's got in mind.
You've got a predatory streak, darling.
All men are predators, dear. Nothing much to be done about that. It's all a matter of where you get to file your teeth.
I do hope she doesn't start an ill-advised crusade into hell or something, because I think I might definitely follow her. Anyway, what's the big time, darling?
The revolution.
He says. Ha! And what is this revolution I keep hearing about, baby?
It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle.
Who got shot in the head? Who got the mineral rights? When was this kerfuffle? That's enough about the times. That's not enough about the times. Who got shot in the head? Was it an ostrich?
Those would be the communists.
All right.
Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head.
As Renner says, I love the writing in this game so much. It's so tight. It's so... there's not a wasted word in it. I fucking hate them. All the communists got shot in the head. That gels with what we learnt about communism, that it is a disaster of epic proportions and we should do it.
She's not gloating. It's a relieved celebration.
So it wasn't as close as you might have liked.
Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well.
Oh.
So well, one forgets they even existed.
What even are anarchists? Did the communists and the anarchists shoot back, or did the anarchists attack back with... I'm torn between petrol bombs and pamphlets there.
Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
So, 6 million dead people. Wow. Truly a kerfuffle. That's a tragedy. Sounds like they should have shot more people in the head then. Okay, well, broadly, we're not going with they should have shot more people in the head, because I feel we are reverse to shooting people in the head, except by accident when we're trying to get them down out of a tree. Truly a kerfuffle. I think that's a tragedy. I think it's fair to describe 6 million people being shot in the head as a tragedy. Or a statistic, but mostly a tragedy. A tragic statistic.
Yes. The Red Deluge. The Insulindian Deluge, they call it.
I had a deluge too in my head. Points to your little head. That is a John Haynes phrase if ever I saw one. Anyone else got shot in the head on the opposing side? Anyone else get shot in the head on the opposing side?
Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew.
How does that work?
The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad.
Smart king, cowardly king, I loved that king. Fucking communists. I don't care about kings. How judgmental am I feeling? Yeah, my beak says I'm feeling pretty judgmental.
I prefer the term risk-averse. King Guillaume was nobody's fool. He could smell a PR disaster brewing, so he got out alive, and his nephew Fricelle got shot in his place.
Indeed. We've heard about that.
Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time.
So, who got the mineral rights? I assume it was capitalists.
The liberals got the mineral rights.
So, pretty much.
And by mineral rights, I mean everything.
Okay. And because it's a word that has almost no meaning today, what do you mean by liberals, baby?
Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well.
I can't help but feel that the writers don't really like anybody.
They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
If everyone got shot, who was there to surrender to?
To foreign intervention.
All right, okay.
The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights.
Wait, you just said the liberals already took everything.
The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people.
Who are the coalition?
The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-la-Clay. The armed centre of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
I've noticed that, like a Limmy show sketch, she pronounces some of the names of countries in like the country's accent, but not the others. So she says Oranje, but Sur-la-Clay. Anyway, I think they're like the anarchists, says Renner, but they all got shot in the head. So conclusively shot in the head, I understand, that most people have forgotten they were even there. Poor anarchists.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
The coalition are pretty much the UN, aren't they? Or maybe NATO. Moralists?
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head.
Or the EU. That's a good point. Mark says the devs show throw shade at everyone, but they circle around to give the Nazis a proper kicking. Excellent. That cheers me up. So the moralists are basically status quoists, which is great if you're winning the status quo. A little bit of politics.
At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government.
Wait, has Renner tricked me into some sort of political thing? Ah, okay. Okay.
The rulers of Revachol, and also the world. These guys are strong.
There's apparently an absolutely brutal parody of an EU bureaucrat later. Okay. These guys are strong. Yes, thank you, physical instrument.
This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
It's an interest. Am I a moralist? So I have strong views about people being shot in the head, except when it happens accidentally because you're trying to get them down out of a tree. But I'm not sure how much I believe in mineral rights. It's basically like centralism. Sensible, reasonable, incremental progress. I don't know. Somebody who's described as keeping everything exactly the way it is doesn't sound like progress. But can you even have progress without a bunch of people being shot in the head? Hopefully this game will answer that conclusively. I don't think I am a moralist. Not just technically, practically as well. I like what I've heard about these people. If always picking the option that doesn't commit to anything, then hell yes I am, and also not. Okay. Filthy neutrals from the planet Neutral, says Mark, and Renner suggests that it may be a type of progress, but a very slow progress. I don't think I am a moralist, ma'am.
Of course. Not easy to be moderate about head shooting in your line of work.
Yeah, jump straight to the head shooting, thank you, and not the mineral rights thing. I'm beginning to wish I was trying to doomedly build communism. You wouldn't like to rush to progress. No, maybe. Particularly not if it involves a lot of head shooting. When was this kerfuffle, anyway? It's pretty recently, as near as I can tell. Or maybe not too recently. The Bulls guys are quite aged.
The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question.
So communism came up when I was in the pawn shop, and it was presented in very evocative terms. And after a good deal of deliberation, I decided that I didn't fancy the idea of building communism. Due to the way that it will definitely end in lots of people being killed, and it just felt off message, so I turned the thought down. So I don't have that thought, and I'm trying to remember what the other thought I turned down was. It might have been something to do with cocaine. Yeah. The turn of the century revolution, she smiles mischievously. Don't answer it, it's a trick question.
The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved.
Who is that who's turned up to bully me about attack dogs? Who started it?
It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Marzolf came along and overthrew the government.
What did this Seraph do, and can you get prion diseases from sources other than eating the brains of other people? Right. Renner is saying you might get the moralist thought at some point. You only get one shot at getting them, and you may want to do one of the political thoughts. I'm kind of hoping there's a political thought for wishy-washy, well-meaning socialism. Actually, that might be moralist, mightn't it? Anyway, what did the Seraph do?
It made people overthrow their governments.
Wow, really?
Of course not.
Oh, okay.
It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
I'm being warned not to look at prion diseases. Don't worry, I'm not allowed to look at anything to do with diseases or medical procedures on the internet. It's a long-standing restriction on my internet access. Apparently, wishy-washy socialist is moralists. Where did it spread from there? It does sound like zombie disease.
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Marzolf's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end.
What came after the end?
Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
He spreads her arms, raincoat flapping in the wind.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar. Maybe it's because she has a boat and you have that necktie? A pair of pants?
Just because she's a representative of a massively powerful megacorporation and is awesomely rich, and I am currently struggling to keep my flares on, does not mean that we are necessarily that different when you get right down to it. Hooray, zombies, says Ed. I don't think we're going to be that lucky. It's not going to be zombies because they are quite straightforward and you shoot them in the head. It is instead going to be anarchists, fascists, and well-meaning socialists all the way down. And it's a lot harder to decide who to shoot in the head there, apart from the fascists. Our lives are very different from each other. What is the zone of control? What happened in the rest of the world? Inland Empire has yet to steer me... I'm going to say has yet to steer me wrong, but that's just so untrue. Our lives are very different from each other.
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think.
Damn it. You are such a baddie, Joyce. What is the zone of control?
A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations. And you, of course, the citizens' militia.
A body that nobody likes. Yeah, I think that more or less sums it up. Was that Bane?
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the
Here we go.
reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
EDC is giving me a cutscene of Elsewhere. And it was not Bane. Shut up.
The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune.
Okay, what happened in the rest of the world?
Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-eastlery communication, telematic milieus, radiation, coloured plastics.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
Well, in any sort of conflict, there's got to be winners and losers, I guess, and the losers have to be stuck with the aftermath of their conflict for 50 years. Wait, is there a Brexit metaphor in here?
43 years. Hard to fathom, I know.
What have we been doing all that time? That's it, then another topic. What have we been doing all that time? Apart from covering literally every surface we can find in graffiti.
The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river levelled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. 08 to 19 was simply hell.
And after that?
The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
Tax havens, they're good for everybody, aren't they?
No.
Oh.
It was a market mirage fueled by cocaine and quantitative easing. The 40s dispelled it like a cold splash, an Isla-wide hangover, you might say. And here we are.
Cocaine and quantitative easing. I can think of few things that are going to, that are better for something. A little bit of politics. I love the way she keeps constantly setting me up for these positive interjections that are merely an excuse for her to tell me I'm an idiot.
Welcome to reality, baby.
Thanks, Joyce. Oh, I've got a skill point. And it's updated my get a reality update task. Ah, I might have completed that one then. Yes, I have, technically. But that's no reason to stop talking to Joyce. Quantitative easing sounds very much like an uncomfortable place to me. You're saying quantitative easing, Ed, is basically the back of a Volkswagen?
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
You don't seem to be thrilled, baby.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt is Barbara Muscova, this raincoat is impervious to rain and is guaranteed for 100 years. My daughters will wear it. No, it's just...
She looks at the crumbling tenements, paint flecking from the stone.
We could have had so much more. Every one of us. If only we played it right.
What would you have done differently, darling?
Good question. What would you have done differently?
Whoa, don't ask me. I would almost certainly, given the way I've been playing the game so far, have apologised to everybody involved.
No, her first.
Okay. Volition is suggesting that I take a firmer stance. I asked you, who are you in all this? I should have sought a medical solution. Sounds like Sarath drove those people mad. I would have killed more, 400 million if that's what it took, thank you. I would have made off with the mineral rights. I don't know what I would have done differently. That is the wishy-washy third wave approach. I asked you, who are you in all this? I asked you, who are you in all this?
And I asked you, past-less detective of the citizens' militia, what insight has acute encephalopathy given to you?
Here's some wisdom, lady. Say the death thing.
Okay, Half-Light. I don't entirely trust you because you hang out with electrochemistry. I would have sought a medical solution. I would definitely not have killed more. I don't think I'd have made off with the mineral rights. Don't know what I would have done differently. The medical solution. It would be really convenient to blame the disease. Does anybody have any suggestions? Because at the minute, I think I'm going to end up with, I don't know what I would have done differently, because that doesn't feel quite right to me. Damn it, my apple juice is in the fridge, and I'm wearing pyjamas. Oh well. It's on messages. Sorry, cop. Yeah. Thank you, John. Always there to give me the worst possible piece of advice. I don't know what I would have done differently.
And you would have died, most likely.
Yay!
Not far from here. Maybe even right here, during the beachhead, defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city.
That would be on brand for me, Joyce.
The cold runs down your spine. She gestures toward the waters.
Probably happily. I would have happily died here defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city. I would probably have died here defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city. No way I wouldn't have fought with the communards. I don't know. They had a lot of good stuff to say, the communards. Don't be wishy-washy, I'm advised. Don't leave me this way. Exactly, don't leave me this way. Little Jimmy Somerville. Fuck it. I would happily have died defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city.
The wind stops. There is silence on the dark water of the Martinez Inlet.
Good. Not that it would have mattered. In the end, the commune forced everyone to the barricades.
Hey, it would have mattered to me. That's enough about the times.
They are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come.
And then end disastrously, because that is just how things go.
Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
You can never have enough sentimentality. I want to know what you are. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, darling. She hums.
She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
What are you? Prompt her. Say nothing. Yeah, I don't want to give her time to think. I want her to immediately say the first thing that comes into her head. Even as we speak, I am getting Rorschach blots ready.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
It's sharp.
What? Wait, what's an ultra? It was mentioned earlier. Keep up. Dios mío, draw across. A liberal. Cool, I liberate pretty hard myself. I don't understand what's so vile about... Well, we were told. Wait, what's an ultra?
An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind.
I don't understand. What's so vile about that? Come on, tell me. Tell me why you're a bad person.
Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. We surrendered the nation to the financier pirates. No sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a man of the left. A true communard. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, are you repulsed?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her. But only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
Shut up, electric chemistry. You're a monster. Seems unfair. I forgive you. I forgive you, but only because you're charming. I don't care.
I hope you do. I hope we are able to continue as friends, despite my scales and my need to infiltrate and betray your precious revolution.
Hey, at least you're an honest villain, I guess. And you got a boat out of it.
Honestly, I may have even preferred it, had the communards won. Who knows? They might really have built something better. But they didn't, because they lost.
Thank goodness. If they'd won, they'd have had to have built something better, and I imagine that would have been quite challenging.
When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed.
Would you have done something differently?
With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery.
While a gentle wind sweeps the streets in the rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean, lights go up and motor carriages circulate the tracks.
Renner points out there's something about this part that feels very post-Soviet reflection. Whereas John helpfully says this is the future the Liberals want. No, John, this is the future the ultra-Liberals want. I'm sure the future the Liberals want will have much nicer streets.
I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake, then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes, an oil fire on the ocean.
You're a smart woman, you're a patriot, you have daughters, you're a smart woman.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
Spoken like a liberal! Just when you think you have her pegged, as Mark says, yes. Yeah. I was thinking earlier about how small the game feels so far. I've been playing now for, I think, something like 20 hours in, something ridiculous like that, and I'm barely halfway through day 2, and I've visited the same half a dozen people 2 or 3 times each, but it's not feeling grindy or repetitive or anything, just because it feels like the characters have depth. I'm thinking about things like, well, obviously Joyce, but also there's something about Kuno that keeps me coming back, that they've done something slightly more interesting with him than just a bad chav from a bad background. Anyway, there you go. I've also got opinions about picking bottles out of rubbish bins and trading them for money as a commentary on the entire design ethos of so-called role-playing games. Anyway, you have daughters.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother and a wife. Now, shall we return to reality?
What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? One of those.
A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions?
Keep guessing. Am I really that awkward? I meant, what is this place here? Am I really that awkward?
Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games.
I mean, what is this place here?
Ah. This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot.
Oh yes, there is a locked door up here somewhere that I have not yet been able to talk my way into.
Or two.
What is the Rue de Saint-Ghislain 33A?
A pre-revolutionary tenement.
Hmm.
Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After, les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old.
She looks up at the crumbling facade.
This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course.
Of course. The coalition artillery. Who lived in them?
Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat.
From a dilapidated balcony, Cindy the Skull gives Joyce the evil eye, her red paintbrush held to her throat.
Wonderful.
Don't pay any attention to her, she doesn't like anybody. What is that? Pointed Cindy the Skull. It's Cindy the Skull. She doesn't like anybody.
The girl in the old lady rags?
Yes.
Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture.
Infra-culture? Tell me more, Socrates.
Yes. You and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture.
Okay, now explain the same thing, but to a child.
Young people who dye their hair funny colours and wear old people's clothes are stupid, and their little rebellion is self-defeating.
Honestly, Joyce, young people and their ways.
All right. What next?
So, I've more or less exhausted my what's going on, where are we, how terrible is it? Is this shell-shocked Eastern Europe? So I'm going to go for what is something fundamental. I've got a better than evens chance.
A strange coldness comes over you as you look at the world. The waves sway the sloop slowly. That's all.
I'm not really an intellectual type, I'm afraid.
The doubt is fully formed in your head. The alien feeling persists. Yet something's still missing. You have finished mulling over the jamais vu thought, but your conceptualization skills are not nuanced enough to make sense of it.
That's all for now.
Glad to have been of assistance.
Thanks,
Little
Joyce.
that I know.
Okay, so what I could do here is I could just put a point straight into conceptualization and try that again. It is for creatives, psychedelic fanciers, and critics. Conceptualization has a special role it wants you to play in this world. Not the role of cop, but of art cop. It enables you to make fresh associations, to delve into world concepts from Jan Karp's postmodernist carpery to Revachol's arabesque architectural style, the Derrida, and even the concept of hardcore. And then, importantly, to add your own contribution to these... This sounds like the sort of thing John Haynes would be into. At high levels, conceptualization makes you go big, perhaps too big. It's an ostentatious, demanding great displays. Why live life when you can throw yourself into it? Yeah, I made the decision early on not to be emo cop. Unsurprisingly, John is suggesting that art cop is better than sorry cop. I'm sorry you feel that way. And Mark is suggesting I might be able to get a different shirt. Actually, let me just check and see if I've got a different shirt. My current shirt is my stylish mesh tank top that is giving me drama. But if I put my white shirt back on, smarten myself up.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
I've put on a new shirt.
More lessons in basic reality?
Ah, it's still locked.
My favourite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
I will actually need to put conceptual points in. Fuck it, let's do it. Creativity, see art in the world. It's not entirely out of line with my psyche and physique.
Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I... More lessons in basic reality?
Here we go again.
My favourite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
I'm not taking drugs, John. Also, I don't have drugs.
What is all of this? The scent, the sound, the air.
What world is this?
What world? The only one, I suppose. The world of matter. And its pale antipode.
There's pale again. The fading pearls of her eyes look to the sea. That is not a good way to describe a sailor.
The camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
What do you see?
Great bodies of water. Forest-covered surfaces. Clusters of light where the cities lie. You've seen the montage. We all have. This world is enough.
She concludes.
There is a term of endearment they coined for it, in the DeLorean century, when humanity was high on this world, discovering more and more of it, these archipelagos included.
What is it?
Elysium.
Elysium. The world needs a term of endearment. This world does not deserve a term of endearment. Is that too emo? That's too emo, isn't it? That is definitely edgy 90s emo speaking. The world needs a term of endearment. That's optimistic. Let's be optimistic. We've got a bag half full of beer bottles, so we're in a good mood. Of course, Elysium is also the Greek underworld where the honoured dead go. And I don't just know that from playing Hades.
It does. There are those who would call it hell.
What is? What is hell? And why is there no option to be Philomena Kunk Cop?
A term of hatred that originates, like many such things, with the Mesk petro-fascists.
I don't feel like I have got the whole picture yet.
Oh, you want a picture of the world? There is no complete set yet, dear. They're having some trouble reaching orbit.
How come?
Great things are difficult to achieve. For now, we're viewing the world from the inside, sideways.
Inside sideways? What shape is this world then?
We used to think it was a sphere, but that is beginning to look less and less likely by the day. You wouldn't know it from the tabloids, but the ORG nations have been launching weather balloons into the lower ionosphere since the 30s.
ORG, Occident Revachol Grad.
Thank you, Encyclopedia, providing me with something that is useless to know, as is your want. John is pointing out she's a flat earther. The problem is that she's an NPC telling us something. So, given that this is clearly a fantasy world...
There's a steadily increasing trickle of images. Between the big three scientific contributors, they're piecing together a dark grey corona.
A dark grey corona? Did you get its license plate?
Yes. Pale covers 72% of the surface. There are grey flares and prominences, even arcs above entire isolas. The images are blurry, but if there was a sphere in there, it certainly looks like it fractured a long time ago.
Okay.
A cold fear seeps into you.
Oh my god, wait, what the hell are you telling me? The pale? And what do you mean, corona? The pale has been mentioned a couple of times in reference to some sort of spirit world or something. The pale? And what do you mean, corona?
They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of land disrupted by nothingness.
The pale driver is the crazy truck delivery lady. You're right, Mark. I had not made the connection. A rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. Yeah, well, if nothing else, it's giving me Dark City vibes.
I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the acute encephalopathy. Even scientific positivism isn't entirely convinced about what we're dealing with here.
This whole conversation has taken a twist that I was not anticipating.
But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our rut, bring us together, however naive it may sound.
Sadly, the real-world equivalent would probably be one of the photographs of the Earth from the Moon, and that has not jolted us out of our rut and brought us all together, so... A fractured corona doesn't feel like it's going to bring anyone together. Okay, and then everything will be okay. There's optimism, there's the stupid optimism.
You have misimagined it. I don't have the power to convey to you the effect and geometry of the images that depict our world from below low orbit. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very disco. You'd love it.
Well, if you say it's disco, doesn't sound like any kind of disco I'd like to go to. Well, if you say it's disco...
See? Everyone finds something worth holding on to in this world, however wasted its opportunities.
The cold seeps into you. The air is heavy with 80% humidity.
Disco Elysium is the name of the game. Yes, thank you, Renner. I suspect this is probably the closest we're going to get to somebody saying the name of the movie in the movie. Again, I had not twigged that. I've been slightly put off balance by the fact that we may be on a flat. Disco heaven.
Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there, on whatever this all is. Your arms hang down by your sides.
Whoa, thank you. I do not need existentialism right now.
The lieutenant observes you both, silently. He adjusts his glasses.
Don't think I haven't noticed the fact that you have a halo, Kim Kitsuragi, okay? You said pale. What is pale?
The Pale is not, technically speaking, part of reality.
Yes. Also, I think we've had enough excitement for today. Remember, we have a cadaver to attend to.
Right, Kim Kitsuragi, I normally follow your lead, but I feel that having given in to you on the cryptid question earlier, I want to find more about what is going on here.
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's try something else.
I don't want to. I want to know what the Pale is. What do you mean it's not part of reality? I don't want to. I want to know what the Pale is.
I don't think your colleague would appreciate that. He has already been so patient with this whole exercise.
You did not see him earlier this morning when he refused to allow me to find out more about cryptids over breakfast.
Let's continue with something else, all right? You can ask about anything else in the world. Anything.
Kim, we've established that I think you're brilliant, but for now, I'm going to ask you to step away while I discuss the Pale with Joyce.
Good idea. Just ask him. He won't make a scene.
See, Volition doesn't think he'll make a scene. Renner tells me I should find out about cryptids. I did try, but Kim was quite intensely opposed to the idea.
Fine.
He steps away with his notes. There you go. See, he's not made a scene.
See? What can he do? You're a grown man.
Don't spoil it, Volition. Now, what is the Pale?
Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant.
Yes. Wait. Am I going to pass out again? Cool. What is the Pale?
Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass.
Wait, and what is an isla? An isla is an island, isn't it? I thought an isla was an island.
Isla is a Messinian word for a continent of matter,
Oh,
enveloped on all sides by the Pale. Also, isolation, or landmass. We used to believe there was only one. In the last 4 centuries, we have discovered 7.
oh.
Mundi, Seol, Samara, Ilmara, Grad, Katla, and this, Insulinde.
An Insulinde is the big sort of archipelago place.
An oceanic isla. It comprises mostly of water. Muindi is the largest, Katla the coldest, Insulinde the bluest. What can I say? Each is perishing and dear.
She's basically just describing a computer game, isn't she? Yes, Rena, the game really makes you think they're saying island. I thought they were talking about it was just an in-game word for island. Okay, what is this Pale like?
Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The Pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness.
Is it here? Is the Pale in the room with us now? What are its physical qualities? If we're surrounded by Pale, how do you get from Isla to Isla? How much Pale is there compared to the world? Let's return to reality, please. Screw reality. If we're surrounded by Pale, how do we get from Isla to Isla?
Oh, it is so difficult for us. It is possible to force dimensions on the Pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the Pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged.
The Pale can damage the mind. Hello?
Extensively.
How?
Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that Pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter.
Uh-huh.
They call it the blend over of the self. The Pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past.
And what does this over-radiation feel like, Joyce?
It feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travellers to 6 days of Pale exposure per year.
You're not a civilian passenger.
No, nameless detective of the Citizens Militia. I am a member of the Entreprenetic Business Class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of Pale transit annually.
I'm just so impressed by the fact they've hidden all this crazy batshit weirdness in plain sight, and I've just not noticed it until we've got to the point where Joyce is clearly telling me about how mad this world is.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories.
Do lorry drivers pass the Pale?
Yes, carried in the hulls of airships. It's a horrific job. Automation will abolish it soon.
Wow. Suddenly, Tommy Lahomme is making a lot more sense staring at that photograph.
You should ask the Pale driver about this. See what she says.
I should ask the Pale driver about this.
That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't imagine.
Are you over-radiated? Oh, man.
Up to my gills, officer.
What is anthroponetic?
Entreprenetics is the scientific study of the Pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of Grad. The study of the Pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain.
And we've had premonitions about something coming across the Western Plain. I'm sure we have. And the Western Plain is the place where the what do you call it? The Trocadero went and then strangled Kylie Minogue and threw her in a river.
There are signs of pre-modern crossings. Successful navigation of the Pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years.
It's going to be drugs, isn't it? Anyway, what has Anthropometics changed then?
Nothing.
Oh.
We remain powerless before the Pale. The only real advance in Pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later.
John is being all full of human emotions in the chat, but yes. I'm going to talk about this in a second because, yes.
Hybrid airships, Detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near Pale to far Pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end. If we throw them precisely.
And if we do not?
Then they don't.
Fucking. How much pay... what are its physical qualities? We don't know its physical qualities, but I'll just check.
It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into Pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension, right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working.
Wow.
No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible.
How much Pale is there compared to the world?
The Pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more Pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping.
Slipping how? To our detriment, or...?
What do you think, Detective?
It's growing. There is more and more of the Pale.
Precisely. One of the few measurable effects of the Pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate.
Shades of Annihilation?
An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the Pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists.
It's not extreme at all. It's going to happen. Cover everything. That can't be. Where would we go? Duh. Stay silent.
Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge.
A metaphor, John? I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I suggest you do the same.
It's interesting. Knowing all of this doesn't bring me any closer to finding out why that security... Well, I know why the security guard was hung, but how to defuse the impending bloodbath regarding the death of the hanged man.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
Off we go into the wild Pale yonder.
One and all. They say Pale is death, but for the universe.
Only for the planet.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Whoa, come on, Inland Empire. I liked you when you were being entertaining, but you can stop with this existentialism. I should probably double check that you're not existentialism, actually, Inland Empire. Is it here? If it be not now, then it be to come.
No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
The bit of this bit of creation that would be the last to be destroyed by the Pale.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
6,000 kilometers from the end of the world.
Yes. That is enough. Many cities are built much closer.
And point north. There?
An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the Pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. A great vision. The area of transition between the world and the Pale is called porch collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist. Cold vapor, marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism. A mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see.
Sometimes, Joyce, I feel you are using the term disco to do a lot of heavy lifting.
You hear your pulse rise. The air feels caustic and cold suddenly.
Let's return to reality, please.
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do,
Oh, don't ask me
tell
questions.
me, Detective,
Don't ask me questions, Joyce. I'm in a vulnerable frame of mind.
is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything?
Okay. Nothing, just alcohol fumes and blackout, but I am very suspicious about this now. I sometimes sense vague shadows of a past, and it's not good. I'm getting a sense of who I am, but no, I didn't know this. I sometimes sense vague shadows of a past, and it's not good. It's not good. Is it? No, it's not good, definitely. The stuff I know I've almost certainly done has been bad, and that is why I am sorry, cop.
Then tell me, what do you think of the Pale?
Oh, it's terrifying. You were right, it's disco. It will end all life. Maybe not all life. That we continue to persist at all is a testament to our faith in one another. Bullshit. Its advance can only be stopped with immediate, total, ruthless communism. A powerful anti-communist force, perhaps too powerful, but still they have it coming. I feel you may have misunderstood the assignment there, number 6. I'm worried, I have to say. It doesn't sound very liberal to me. No, that is very true. I don't think the panel is at all concerned about mineral rights. I don't know how you've all survived with it. It's a huge accomplishment. And, here we go. Who am I to think anything of it? Okay, so let's winnow this down quickly. You've just got a hangover, I'm sure, says Renner. I'll come back to John's comment in a minute. It's terrifying. That is true. It's disco. I don't know. I'm beginning to suspect that, like that bit about tigers and the throwaway reference to tentacles, that is a very obscure reference. Disco might not mean the same thing that I think disco means. It will end all life. That's a bit truism. Yeah. Testament to our faith in one another. The communist ones are irrelevant. It doesn't sound very liberal to me. Seems a bit flippant. I don't know how you've all survived with it. It's a huge accomplishment. Yeah. Her eyes tense. Crow's feet radiate from them. She observes you. Your bloodshot eyes and swollen face.
You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then...
He stops mid-sentence. I'll handle it. It's under control. That is a lie of epic proportions. This investigation will be my masterpiece, the one they remember me by, except that the world is ending, I promise. Yes, I'm in serious trouble here. It'll be a fucking disaster, I know it. All those people will die. Yeah, B tells me I'm on my own. I do remember I need money for my room tonight, Renner. I'm going to try and see how much I'm going to get for these bottles. Yes, I'm in serious trouble here. John is suggesting that I could be totally upfront about it and point out it'll be a fucking disaster. I feel like that's too negative. I have achieved some stuff so far. I have successfully returned the bull that I threw into the water in a way that made at least one of the two old men marginally happy. When I say that out loud, that doesn't sound like a great achievement. Yes, I'm in serious trouble, Joyce.
Your colleague, Lieutenant Kisaragi, is competent.
He is.
I checked up on him. And you have me. I will try to assist you in any way I can.
I do kind of need 20 real, mind.
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
Even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
He gives you a slight bow. I've leveled up.
Good. You have not passed out from it. Perhaps I worried for nothing. Are we still on the reality lowdown, or should we do actual police work now?
You needn't have worried, Kim. It had nothing to do with how awful I personally am. It was all about how dreadful the world is. You needn't have worried. That was fucking insane, Kim. Right, let's get to work, Lieutenant. Some more reality lowdown before we go. Right, let's get to work, Lieutenant. You needn't have worried.
But I did. Anyway.
Oh, we friends, Kim. He looks around a little uncomfortable now.
Damn it. You're a grown man, the lieutenant thinks. Shouldn't have gotten protective air.
Why is there no option to give him a hug? Right, let's get to work, Lieutenant.
Good luck, detectives.
She nods you goodbye. Well. I was not expecting that, I have to say. Obviously, I've made a real point of not reading any spoilers at all for this game. And I genuinely thought it was a comparatively mundanely grounded detective thriller with a bit of cool weirdness involved in it. Even when it introduced stuff like shivers or conversations with your tie, I just thought they were putting the David Lynch slider up a bit. But they have gently lulled me into a false sense of security by just slowly introducing the weirdness right up to that point where they laid all the weirdness out in front of me. Or rather, they laid out a solid dumping of weirdness out in front of me. I'm surprisingly happy, I have to say. That is interesting. John's question, incidentally, was, in the face of that, does it matter to solve one man's death? But, yes, that's easy enough to answer, because it's not actually, as we learned last time from Joyce, it's not actually about solving one man's death particularly. It's about stopping the bloodbath that is brewing between the Unionists and the bloodthirsty mercenaries, in which lots of people will get killed. So in a way, it's about preventing a lot of deaths. And you could argue that in the greater scheme of things, it's irrelevant because they're going to ultimately all of reality is going to be consumed by the Pale. But if you take that attitude, there's no point doing anything because everybody is eventually going to die. With the possible exception of Elon Musk, who I imagine will put his brain in a jar before death and outlive us all, possibly on the moon. Man, I want to go back and give Tommy Lahoma a hug as well. Let's resist for the minute. Yes, Rena, that was a lot more than I was expecting, I've got to say. When you said you wanted to see me doing the rest of the reality update, I thought it was just going to be about world building. And I guess it was in a way, but yeah. So, what I'm going to do now, I think, actually, thinking about it, is I'm going to take a brief break while I process the excitement that we've just had and grab my apple juice out of the fridge. After which, I'm going to see if I can talk to the mess about the armour and find out what's been going on down here before I go and speak to the Union thugs. But before I do any of that, I'm just going to quickly sell my bottles and hope that provides me with 20 real. And in fact, I'm going to save scum it. Yeah. Wrong one. It's this one, isn't it?
The tear machine stands in the corner. Your bottles clunk into the machine.
I'm up to 11. I need another 8 or 9. As long as I don't buy anything else. Right. Clive, I've just had a long chat with Joyce, and I got the full reality lowdown about what these solar actually are. They're not describing an island. I'm suddenly a little bit more interested in that thought I had about the 15th Inder tribe, about the people. And I've had my mind mildly blown by the fact that it's not just a slightly alternate universe, Eastern Europe, it's a whole freaking other cosmos. So I'm taking a 5-minute break. I still haven't worked out exactly how to put up a saving screen or anything yet. mostly because I haven't tried, and I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes with some apple juice and a clean mug. Right, I'll see you then. Bants or bullying, bants or bullying, we're playing a game called Bants or bullying, bants or bullying, bants or bullying, it's rarely bants, it's usually bullying.